Hi friends, this is Marilyn from tarotclarity.com again, and today's video is another video in the playlist of tarot deck publishers who carry and produce antique tarot cards or ancient historic tarot decks. Today I'm focusing on Los Scarabeo. Now back in the day, before the past few years, Los Scarabeo did carry some ancient tarot decks. It's just part of their publishing. They had a wide berth of tarot decks, and in large part, they did focus on honoring, old school tarot. One of the first decks I bought from them was in the 90s. I had seen a deck. I had seen the Visconti, some Visconti cards, Visconti Sforza cards, in New York. And I'm going back like probably in the 80s, late 80s, or somewhere in the 80s. And I was like, whoa, blew my mind. And I searched, everywhere I could in suburban Philadelphia looking for a reproduction, but there were really none to be had. But I kept my eye. And then finally one day when I went into the tarot section of my local bookstore, which was by then in the 90s starting to carry tarot decks, I found this, the Visconti Tarots, and I almost can't tell you how I felt. I was just beyond excited. And for many years, I used this as my favorite deck. Of course, Los Scarabeo does have a tendency, and I think maybe the trend might be coming to a halt, but they did have a tendency to write the card name in multiple languages, which can be rather annoying. But I put all that aside just because these cards were just extraordinary for the time. I believe this deck was published by them in 95, somewhere in the mid 90s. And oh my goodness, there was nothing like it, as far as I had experienced at that point. So there's that. And they also, through the years, did produce other historic tarot decks, like the Ancient Tarot of Bologna, which I believe is a print of, I think, Giovanni Zoni. I think that's his name. Oh, I forget. But I believe that's the original artist's name. And I apologize, I should have looked it up before. Oh, Giacomo Zoni, 1780. Now, this deck, for whatever wonderful reasons, does not have multiple languages on it. And so this deck is really just, just the cards, without all those words and stuff on it, with all the other, multiple language names on them. And they have, now, I'm sure they had many more than I'm just showing you. These are just the ones that I happen to have collected over the years. The Vachetta, Tarot of the Master again. This is an incredible deck. But again, this particular one has the multiple languages on the side. But I know of people who just take it off, they do a borderectomy on it, and the deck stands, quite beautifully without the border. And in some I have 3 versions of this particular deck, and I'll be honest with you, in some cases, the Los Scarabeo colors are really good, really fine in some of the cards. So this is a nice, inexpensive way to have a copy of this extraordinary deck. I think the deck that I just showed you, the Giacomo Zoni, I believe it's out of print, and it's been out of print for a while. However, you might get lucky on eBay. There might always be someone who's looking to cash in on, you know, a deck that has come out, you know, gone out of print and, you know, worth a couple bucks now. We have, they've always been good about doing classic decks. They have the Neoclassic Tarot. Again, no languages. So I think it's hit or miss. I'm not exactly sure why some had the words on the sides and some don't. I'm not really sure what that was about. Maybe it has to do something with Llewellyn or who's Scarabeo. I don't know. I'm not really sure I understand why. But, you know, they've always, you know, done historic decks. And this this deck was the only Solabusca you could get at the time. And I had, in my research and in my studies, I had learned about the Solabusca. And we're going back, you know, we're going back quite a number of years. I'm not sure when this was published. Do I have a card that says 95? Okay, so this came out around the same time as the Visconti Sforza, you know. And this was the only game in town as far as getting a copy of the Solabusca. This one does not have cards and names, and oh yes, it does on the top. Names in every language. Yeah, it does on the top. But at any rate, you know, this was it. So I bought this to study the deck. As far as I know, this was a redraw of the deck. I think it might have been drawn by Berti, Giordano Berti, but I don't want to swear to it because I'm just not sure. But it was an artist's rendition of the original cards, but it was all you could get, you know. And the note that I found just now on this deck was to my children, because at the time, this was the only copy of the Solabusca to be had. And it was out of print. Once it got out of print, I wrote a note on it to my kids that if they were to sell this at a garage sale for 50 cents, I'd haunt their asses. So that's what that is. But now there are many people who reproduce the Solabusca. And this is, they don't just have the only Solabusca deck. Now, these were the standard kind of decks that Scarabeo had. And in recent years, they've come out with the Anima Antiqua, Ancient Soul decks, you know. And they do a nicer job of the ancient decks. Usually they come with a book, you know, a card, and then a beautiful reproduction of the images, and lovely. Now their card stock is a bit flexible. There's a sheen. It's not glossy. It's like a satin finish, not linen. Some people like it. Some people don't. I like them, you know. And so they have this line. So which ones do they have available? This one that I just showed you is the Minchiati Etruria. They have the Metelli. And they all have, you know, they come in these nice, very nice boxes with a book. And then lovely reproductions of the images. They too are one that have done a Solabusca in recent years. So I nabbed that as well. And I know others have done the Solabusca, but I was just content to have this copy and you know, just stop it there. I didn't go for one of the art decks. And that's the other thing. These decks are not extraordinarily expensive. These are affordable, you know, they're affordable art decks. You know, they're not made on the kind of paper that you might get from Il Meneghello or Giordano Berti, but I think they're quality decks nonetheless. They have, they're nice reproductions. This one is directly, from the card. It's not a redrawn. They're not redrawn images as the illuminated tarot cards were. So they're actual reproduction of the cards. And some people who make it their work to investigate and study the Solabusca might opt for a better reproduction of this by one of the other art houses. But for my intents and purposes and my interest in the Solabusca and what I need to study it, this is more than sufficient for me. They had a Kickstarter in recent years for I don't remember what it was for, but it might have been for the Madrone, which I'm about to show you. And as a bonus gift for ordering the Madrone, I think that was it. They included an Atea tarot deck, which is based on one that I have from the 60s. This one is always so hard to get out of the box. I believe the one that I have from the 60s was done by Grimaud. I think that's who, it must have been. And this reprint that they came out with in recent years, again, is a nod to ancient historic deck, or not quite as ancient as the Italians, but going back to Atea. I guess I have it upside down here. Sorry. Oh, I can't win. But so Lo Scarabeo, if you're interested in, getting historic decks, is a mass producing publisher who does have lines of historic tarot decks that can be had for not a lot of money. Certainly affordable. And the last one that I want to show from Lo Scarabeo, which I think is just exquisite, is the Madrone Tarot that I purchased just a few years ago. Comes with a book and discusses, various things, the history of the cards themselves, who was responsible for creating them. The name Madrone is a reference to the people who owned the deck. And it comes with some goodies, like the stamp, which I have the coin for this. I was doing a little, give me a second, I'm going to dig up the coin. I created a little project for myself to try to match the coins of Italy and France with their decks, and I found this exquisite coin. Unfortunately, I can't hold it in my hand because it's in such fine condition that, I can't hold it. They sealed it up in this case, and if I were to break the case, I'd have to go through lots of trouble to prove that it was an authentic coin. But it was created in the 1400s, around the time that this deck would have been created, and it's the seal of Galeazzo Sforza. Here's I don't know if that's the front or back. Trying to get it in focus. I'm sorry. I don't even know if it's upside down or not. And then here's their dragon. So I hope you can see it. I've collected a lot of coins to try to reconnect them with the tarot decks, because out of fun. And again, here's the seal. At any rate, getting back to the deck that they put out, oh my gosh, it's just fabulous. Again, other art houses have recreated this deck, and maybe some people prefer those over this, but I do really like this deck, and for my purposes, I'm satisfied with it, and I haven't bought another deck since. It's gilded on the sides. Now remember, gilding does, you know, get messed up if you use the cards. It's high lacquer, and not lacquer, but high laminate. But it really, oh gosh, they really make the cards look alive, you know. But it does have a high laminate to preserve, I guess, the finish of the cards. But if you ever really wanted to know what a card looked like back in the 1400s, this is a really good place to look. I don't think they'd be as shiny. I think they wouldn't obviously have any kind of laminate. They were just painted with gold and silver. And I think my deck that I showed in this playlist, the second one I did of Il Meneghello's cards of the Brambilla Tarot, if you want to go back, you'll see probably how they more authentically looked. They wouldn't have this high sheen. But I kind of like this high laminate because it makes me feel, it alerts me to the fact that this is a really special deck. And I imagine in the day holding these cards when they were created, it just must have been so incredibly, look at this detail. Come on. Oh my gosh. So anyway, these are examples that I own of the quality of work you can expect from Los Scarabeo when it comes to their historic tarot decks. I hope this has been helpful to you, and until next time, friends, stay well. Peace.